President up there is
You sit down and back.
Right, exactly, yeah.
But I don't want.
That's very true. This is the stage session. Let's go get the same seats.
I remember I remember you said one day you had to make any sense.
I have to write it
Every year.
Never wait, how you doing? I got two more trees.
That's okay. I'll come over here and sign the form away.
Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. It is 7 o'clock by my cell phone, and I would like to welcome all of you to the November general meeting of the Southbridge Homeowners Association. My name is Janet Stevenson, and I'm currently serving as president. I would like to introduce our current board members who are up here. To my left, Tom Bartlett. Mandy Romance is our secretary. To my right, Rick Mullenix. And then some of you may be asking why Regina Graham is up here. Unfortunately, Mary Duffy, who had been a very active and faithful member of our board, relocated to Florida. And to fill out the rest of her term, which goes to the end of this year, the board appointed Regina to fulfill that in Mary's absence. So thank you very much, Regina, for being willing to come back to the board. This week earlier, Veterans Day, and I would like to thank all of our veterans who are in attendance and those who are watching from home. And if you are a veteran, I would like to ask you to stand to be recognized and accept our gratitude. Can't say thank you enough for your service. I would like to welcome all of you who are in attendance, both here in person and those who are watching online. I want to remind everyone that our meeting is for Southbridge HOA members only, and to ask everyone to hold questions to the end of the agenda. I'd like to thank, once again, Gary Rowden for his heroic efforts with respect to the recovery efforts after Hurricane Helene, and for working with vendors to help, particularly Kent King and his crew, with tree cutting and debris removal throughout the neighborhood. Thank you, Gary. Work is ongoing related to this storm, which has been described by Georgia Power as the worst storm to affect the state of Georgia in the company's history. They've told us that when you compare the effects of Matthew, Irma, Michael, and Zeta, and you combine them, Helene was worse than that. Right. So we're talking devastating because of the number of areas that throughout the state that were so hard hit. But at any rate, want to also thank, because I like to get my thank yous out at the beginning, Janie Prisbel, a board member who is unable to be with us tonight, and the Events and Services Committee deserve a big thank you for working through the logistics of rescheduling the annual community yard sale, which I know a number of you participated in. And unfortunately, due to the use of the ball field for HOA storm debris, the fall festival that was scheduled in October did have to be canceled. We are going on, I hope everyone has a copy of the agenda. There are handouts on the table right outside the door if you did not get them. But we are going to start with the board election process and candidate comments. And Mandy Romance, our secretary, administers and handles that process, so I'm going to ask Mandy to come up and just give you a few thoughts about how the process works this year, and then she will be introducing the candidates who are with us tonight to introduce themselves to you.
Well, hello everyone. I'm Mandy Romance. I'm the board secretary, and just to kind of remind everybody, we do have 2 ways for everybody to vote. Everybody is sent a ballot in the mail, and then there is online voting, and we really would prefer everybody to vote online. It does make our process very fast. The deadline for the ballot to be mailed in is December 13th, as well as your online voting to be done by December 13th. We will have everything tabulated, and the decision will be announced no later than December 27th. And that will be announced via email. We will have the candidates that are here tonight. They will be coming up and reading their bios. We do have, unfortunately, 2 candidates that could not make it tonight, and I will read their bios. Lucy Cafiro, there's Miss Lucy. In it'll be 3 to 5 minutes. So Miss Lucy, if you'll come up here, please. Yes.
You want to stand in front of the podium?
Yeah. Oh, in front, I don't care. Walk around here. Once you walk around.
Thank you. Good evening. My name is Lucy Cafiro. My husband, Dana All, he's been a 42-year Army veteran, and he was also our neighborhood captain whenever we had a captain. We moved here from Colorado 5.5 years ago. I am originally from New York, so sometimes people think that I'm a little gruff, sometimes. Southbridge was the first neighborhood that our realtor took us to, and we knew that we had found our forever home. My career in project management spans 25 years in the building and land development industry. I have a bachelor's degree in creative writing and English, and I am a certified TESOL instructor. Since my retirement, I have published 3 novels, and my articles have been featured in George Magazine, West Chatham Magazine, Spill Words, Coffee House Writers, and various nonprofit organizations. This year, I volunteered to take an active role in the review committee of the ARB handbook, helping to implement changes for our neighborhood. I worked alongside 7 other people to get this task completed. Many of you reached out to me with concerns about sheds, garden flags, military flags, mulch, and holiday decorations. We made significant progress in addressing these concerns to satisfy the majority. Because of all my experience in land development, I was concerned with what I was hearing or not hearing about Tract K. I took it upon myself to get information and ask important questions that others were hesitant to voice. And through the Oversight Committee Facebook page, I shared this with all of you. These accomplishments were achieved by listening, effective communication, and transparency, 3 crucial elements in keeping our neighborhood informed about issues that affect our community. As a new board member, I promise to be your voice. I would like to close with a quote from Rebecca Solnit. "A vote is not a Valentine. You aren't professing your love for a candidate. It's a chess move for the community you want to live in. You are voting for someone who will represent your concerns."
I'm going to read his bio since he couldn't be here tonight. I've been living in Southbridge for 2.5 years. Prior to that, I've lived for 20-plus years in Seattle, Washington. Recently retired from an executive career in aerospace. I was blessed with 3 wonderful children from a prior marriage, twin daughters and a son, all grown up now, living and working on the West Coast. My wife and her daughter and I thoroughly enjoy the friendly Southbridge community, where we've made many friends as members in both the CRC and Grand Lake Club. Looking forward to meeting you and all contributing to the Southbridge HOA. Brian McLaurin is another individual who is also running and could not make it tonight. And I'm going to read his bio. I've had the pleasure of watching Southbridge grow and develop over the last 30 years. I believe in the Southbridge HOA has been integral in maintaining and the continuity and aesthetics of our neighborhood. However, I've grown increasingly concerned with the direction of the board the past 3 years. I am firmly against raising our HOA dues and or giving the board authorization to raise dues at its discretion. Simply, the board needs to work within the budget provided, find more effective ways to communicate with our community, and have a more responsible approach with enforcing our covenants. Okay, our next individual running is Rick Mullinex.
Thank you, Mandy. So I'm Rick Mullinex, and presently I am President and COO of Great Dane Trailers. And if you're not familiar with Great Dane is a company that started in Savannah in 1900, and now we have about 6,000 employees and have 11 manufacturing plants across the country, 16 service center locations. So I've been with them my entire career. I started out as an intern in a test lab and did a lot of different things in my career in manufacturing and engineering. I think the things that are pertinent to my experience with Great Dane have to do with budgeting and with capital projects and project management. We've built things from pole barns to $40 million buildings. So there's a big range of type of stuff, as well as equipment replacement, all that type of stuff that goes on with factories and that type of an organization. As Janet mentioned, I've served on the board for 3 years, largely helping with the financial oversight, even though Janet is a strong financial oversight advocate, I would say, and also helping with the common area improvement team. We'll talk more about what that group does later on tonight, but really it's about trying to keep our common area looking sharp and clean and fresh. Currently, I serve on the session of the Independent Presbyterian Church. So the way the Presbyterian Church works, you have ruling elders and teaching elders. Teaching elders are the pastors. Ruling elders are people that kind of run the business of the church. And so I run the finance, administration, personnel areas of those. So I manage the budget for Independent. Also serve on the board of the Chatham Club, which is a local dinner club. And previously, I served on board of the Coastal Jail Ministry, basically doing the financial stuff for them, and also for Veritas Academy as a local Christian private school where I served on the finances side of that. So I've been married, my wife and I have been married for 42 years. As of yesterday, 42 years, we celebrated. And so, well, thank you for that. It goes by fast when you think about it. The older I get, the more the years run together, believe me. We have 2 adult children. One lives here in Southbridge, one lives over in Berwick, and one grandchild. I got my undergraduate degree from Georgia Tech. I had got a master's from South Carolina. That's a story in itself, how those 2 things happen. But anyway, it's been an honor to serve on the board, and I'd be pleased to try to continue serving and would appreciate your vote to try to finish, particularly with some of the common area things we have going on. So thank you.
Okay, and our last candidate is Brian Pertell.
Thank you, everybody. I have 5 points, and I knew a pastor that said when you have 5 points, that's 50 minutes, but mine will be 5 minutes. So just to introduce myself, my name is Brian Pertell, as you heard. I moved here in 2016. You can kind of tell I have an accent from Wisconsin, so I haven't lived here all my life. We moved here in 2016 with 6 children, and we've added a son-in-law and a grandchild to that since we've lived here. You've probably seen me almost every day. You just don't realize it. My wife and I go for walks up and down Southbridge Boulevard, and you've probably been driving by us many times. I am a CPA. I worked for a coal management company for 12 years, and I was the CFO there. I had to deal with land development, city, counties. We expanded them from 1,300 units to 5,000 units in those times, and we sold out in 2019. The reason why I'll be on the HOA is because initially it was like something you love to hate. The HOA kind of, a lot of people feel that way. My first interaction was I bought the house, and like 45 days later I got a note in the mail that said we were out of compliance because we had rocks in our garden. But I had just bought the house. I didn't know. So, we got the pine straw and took care of it, but that was the first interaction. And so I'm here because I think it's communication is one of the biggest issues that I would say the board has with the members of the HOA. I always took it as, the HOA, but really us as homeowners are the HOA, and the board represents our interests. The covenant changes kind of pushed me to take this giant leap for Brian Kind to sign up to try to be on the board, because it was explained to us that they were just minor changes and changes to just a developer language. But when you actually read through them, the minor changes weren't really so minor. And it was my take that the attorney suggested changes, a committee reviewed them, and the board looked at them. And I just felt like someone sitting there had to have understood that those changes were just not minor changes, and that homeowners might not like those changes. So someone had to understand that, and I believe with my career working for the property management and development company, and I currently work for Port City Logistics as their VP of administration, so I deal with all their real estate, and I read every single sales contract that goes through the door. That is a long day, let me tell you. But I do legal contracts and legal things day in and day out. But as a board member, I would work to enhance communication, align board interests with homeowners' interest, focus on the strategic plan by aligning, again, the needs of the community, and preserving self-management of the HOA so that we can continue to have it be managed by homeowners versus a third-party management company. With part of the communication, I believe using like social media more might get more people involved. Like, I didn't realize there was all these adjunct committees. I don't know if a lot of people even know that, or how they can be a part of that. And I think using different sources of media will help get that out and get more involvement. And with that, I hope you can use the gifts that I have to help the board and the HOA. Thank you.
Okay, well, that concludes the bios, and the ballots were mailed out today. If you have any questions, please send them to the secretary email, and I will try to answer them, and if I can't, I will try to forward them on to somebody who can. So, thank you.
Thank you, Mandy. Well, as our board election is about to commence, I would like to recognize and thank Tom Bartlett for his many years of service on the board, particularly in the areas of property management and safety and security. Tom's been responsible for updating and maintaining the security camera system throughout the neighborhood and coordinating the night patrol officers with the Chatham County Police Department. He will be rotating off after many years of service, and I would appreciate all of us joining together to thank him. Now, for any of you who have attended meetings before and looked at one of our agendas, you may recognize that there's a slight difference in the format of our agenda tonight. And that's because we have gone through an update of our strategic plan. And my husband, Jim Stevenson, was the facilitator for the process that we went through in the summer, and he's going to explain a little bit, give you an overview of that process and where we are now with our updated strategic plan. Okay, good.
Thank you, Janet. What I wanted to share with you a little bit is the process that we went through. Now, the Southbridge HOA does a strategic plan update, or basically a new strategic plan every 3 years. And then every year, there's an update in the middle of the year. So it keeps everything current, keep making changes as the community changes. So I wanted to make sure everybody knew how we did this. We also are very open to anybody participating, and so keep that in mind as years go on. When we do another one, if you really want to be involved, we'd love to have you involved. You have the handout in front of you, I hope, and I'm just going to follow down through here and cover this very quickly. We had a retreat in this very room on July the 20th of this year, and you can see the list of the planning members. Some of them, of course, are board members. They were all here. And then just people representing different interests and different groups, and also people who just said, I'd like to be a part of it. So we really appreciate everybody's involvement that day. It was a very good day in this room. It was also a very pretty day where you could look out on this neighborhood that we all enjoy and want to be a part of it and help it grow. The process, we sent pre-work out to everybody, so this wasn't just a walk in the park. Everybody had to think a little bit. And so we got all that back and we put it together, and that became the basis for a lot of work that we did that day. We reviewed the mission and vision statement. I think this thing is off again. Can you hear me? No. All right. Don't touch it. Okay, I must have touched it. It's still not working, is it? Too much? No, not at all.
Did it go off?
It went off. And I didn't touch it. A little bit better? Okay. Boy, that one died on us, didn't it? Okay, that's all right. Okay, so we talked about the mission and vision statement, which we always do. We changed it to reflect more what's going on now and what we expect to go on in the future, so that was very helpful to get everybody's ideas on that. We broke out into 3 big oak teams, and so that everybody could work closer around the table. And then we started talking about, everybody, this is referred to as a SWOT analysis in the business community, but it's strengths, weaknesses, opportunities, and threats. Most of you have probably heard of that before. So we talked about a whole gamut of things about what's good, what's bad, what's changed, what's going to happen in the future as best we could figure out. And each of the tables worked through that, wrote things down. Then we determined the initiatives, goals, and administrative priorities. Now, the way we did that is we had boards, little papers all around this room. And so people would get up, they'd write something down on a little piece of paper they felt like fit a category, stuck it up there, and then we went to each one of those things as a group and talked through it and decided whether it was useful, not useful, put it somewhere else, don't worry about it now, or it's something we really need to work on. Because you can't work on everything, so I promise you I didn't touch that. So we got everything figured out, which was great because we did this in one day. The promise of lunch probably helped a little bit out with that. And then we assigned all this work to different committees that already existed to be able to determine the goals and all. So as Janet mentioned, things are a little bit different in the way that the agenda is formed because they wanted the strategic plan to reflect how business is done. And they just knock it. Is it better? Okay. I guess I don't know how to use one of these things, Regina. So anyway, what we ended up doing was listing the fact that there are certain administrative priorities that go on year in and year out because that's, I got it. That's how the business needs to be run. So you've got financial oversight that Rick mentioned, and property management, and safety and security, and communication, legal matters. Those sort of things go on day in, day out. So there's somebody assigned to that and work on that all the time. That's not going to go away. Then we have standing committees, architectural review, covenants, events and services, strategic plan, and common area. These are things that aren't going to happen every day, but they happen during the year and are updated and people are responsible for them, so they're already in place. And then we have some ad hoc committees like the I-1695 improvement project that we thought would be a done deal by now, but as you'll learn later, it's not quite finished. Anybody out there on 16 today? Okay. The annexation possibilities, they'll talk about that more later. Track K development and traffic calming. So these are 4 items that, things are going on now. There's some issues in place. A lot of people express concern about speeding in Southbridge all around the community. And so there have been some enforcement going on and all that. And what the enforcement people tell us most of the time is most of the people who speed in Southbridge live in Southbridge. And that's very unfortunate. Not everybody, but most people. So, that's something we need to look at. So there's a group that's going to take a look at that and look at calming opportunities perhaps to try to slow things down a little bit, particularly on Southbridge Boulevard. Let's see. Okay, initiatives with specific goals. Now, this is where the plan got put in place. Most of you have probably been in business of some sort. Most companies operate with a business plan. Made some references to that earlier. I know my company did. And so it's really important to try to figure out what is it the company really needs to accomplish and make sure that the employees in the company know that's what you're trying to do. Can you imagine working for a company and not knowing exactly what you're trying to do? Well, same thing goes here. These are 3 initiatives, and some of them have been referred to tonight already, that were put into place and are going to be worked on with specific goals. One of them is infrastructure. And Rick mentioned that too because of the common area and other places within here that need to be taken care of. Organization and systems, and then also communication. Now, communication is not new to the strategic plan, but trying to figure out better ways to communicate with the homeowners is an ongoing process. So there have been attempts made. Believe it or not everybody that lives in Southbridge has an email presence. And that's unfortunate in this day and time because that is the very easiest way to communicate with everybody. So there's going to be a concerted effort to try to figure out how to enhance that and also come up with some new ways to do that with the Communications Committee. So you'll have almost on every one of the quarterly meetings, Janie Prisbel, who's responsible for this item, or someone else will give an update on how things are going. And the whole agenda will be organized along those lines so that everything is tied into that plan. And then, of course, I said mid-year every year, the board meets and I help facilitate how's it going, what changes do we need to make, what else needs to be added, because just because it's the middle of the year doesn't mean something hasn't changed. All right? And for instance, in the latest strategic plan, there was something put in there for Track K a while back because it came up and it needed to be addressed and there would need to be some communication and so on. So that was a part of the last strategic plan. So to get the details on this plan, it's about 4 or 5 pages long, easy to read, but there's in the beginning, at the end of this handout, you can go to the website and it tells you how to get to the strategic plan if you'd like to look at it in more detail. So thank you very much. Sorry about the microphone.
Thank you. This is a good process for the board to go through and to invite members of the community to participate in that process as well, so that we feel like we are organized and have a direction. We have a roadmap for where we want to go, how we want to improve things, and how we're going to accomplish those things. Next on our agenda, we will move to the administrative priorities section, and Rick Mullenix is going to give an overview of finances and also introduce or actually present the 2025 budget.
All right, thank you, Janet. So on the financial reports, copies of the reports are available as you came in through the end of Q3, and they'll also be posted on the HOA website. Every month, we carefully review any expenses that come in some detail, both me individually, Janet as well, and then we review them together as a board, so we try to tightly manage expenses. Keystone Associate Managers is doing a good job on providing accurate and timely reports. In my 3 years on the board, this is the best that it's been as far as the business office. A couple of things I wanted to point out on the budget, or the year-to-date actuals. Income's running about 4% higher than budget. This is largely driven by interest income. We have a benefit of the high interest rates, and we're taking advantage of that, so that's helped on the income side. Expenses are in line and with expectations through Q3. The little bit of overage you have is capital projects, which are intended to be drawn from reserve. So expenses are pretty much in line. We do expect a significant loss in Q4 of this year, however, with the storm cleanup. We already spent over $100,000 in cleanup, and there's more work still happening and will happen. So I dare guess it's going to be $150,000 to $200,000 that we spend on storm cleanup. We do have reserve funds for these types of events where we can pay those expenses without having to do any special assessment or anything like that. So we're in good financial shape. We're able to absorb blows like this because of our reserve fund practices, but just to be aware that we'll end up losing money on the budget line. We'd be happy to answer any questions or any details about this at the end of the meeting, or you can email us, and with those questions, we'll get back to you. I mentioned delinquencies. Delinquencies are about $42,000 now in total on 19 properties. 19 properties is one of the lowest that I've seen, too, in the 3 years. That 42,000, roughly half of that is on 3 properties. The board takes very aggressive approach toward fines and property liens, which we've done on all these delinquent accounts, to try to make sure we get our money in the end. On the budget,
if it fails, I'll be able to take over. As a lot of you can figure out, being on a HOA board, it's an ongoing task, but it's very enjoyable. But it's not unlike that of serving on a city council or county board of county commissioners, because you deal with all kinds of issues: public works, code enforcement, better known as covenants enforcement here, and those sort of things. But anyhow, normally I am preceded by Sergeant Keith Dennis. Unfortunately, his wife fell earlier today and hit her head, so he had to take her to the hospital to do the precautionary scans and that sort of thing. But he did spend about 30 minutes on the phone updating me as we speak on a regular basis, weekly, on what the most current status of the night patrol is out here in our crime statistics as it relates to what Chatham County Police Department tracks. I'm very glad to say again, in the past 30 days, we've had no crimes, no Class 1, Part 1 crimes reported in Southbridge community. We have had incidents reported in our adjacent communities, so that says a lot to a lot of things that have worked for us, a lot of the programs and initiatives that the board has supported over the, not only the current administration, but previous, has helped keep us safe. Just moving right ahead, there is, you've noticed our speed trailer has been back, and that's not just a pretty digital sign to remind you that, yes, I'm speeding, I know that, so tell me something I don't know. Well, what you don't know is that it actually records at date, time, not your tag number and not your vehicle, but the speed that that vehicle is going. So at the end of a period that the trailer is deployed, let's say on Southbridge Boulevard, it can then give the commander on the West Side Precinct a printout in terms of what were the peak periods of the day that we had speeders the most at. So what that does is allow them to free up overtime to pay regular patrol units to come out with radar and run radar. We had that not too long back, 5 units that operated on Southbridge Boulevard. I think there were 27 citations that were issued, probably 26 was to Southbridge residents. So anyhow, we as a board, we do proactively, we're very conscious of that, and we do reach out and try to do things to help mitigate that. All night patrol positions have been staffed. A lot of people often ask, well, why do we have night patrol out here? Our taxes pay for police. Well, on a given day, there's only, in the evening watch, for instance, we're in beat 7 of Chatham County Police precincts, on the West Side Precinct, so there's only 7 officers for a huge, huge area. And guess where most of those officers are deployed most of the time? They're either in Georgetown on calls for service, or at I-95, I-16, and motels and things out there. So when officers that we have, extra duty officers we call them, when they come out here, they're in the marked, sometimes in unmarked patrol cars, but they're logged in with a 911 center. So God forbid if we have an incident that happens out here and you dial into 911, guess what? They are instantly dispatched, and the bad guys know that are incarcerated on Carl Griffin Drive. They ain't going to come to Southbridge to cause problems. So thanks again to the board and our support, and the night patrols programs and such is continued on. We normally have a community liaison officer assigned by the Chatham County Police Department. This is a liaison officer that works with neighborhood watch programs. Unfortunately, that position is not filled. However, I'm very proud to say that Sergeant Keith Dennis has actively been working with our more recent neighborhood watch coordinator, Kent King, who's been doing a very good job. And yeah, Kent, I don't know if you're here tonight, but thank you. In terms of continue on the neighborhood watch initiatives that are established. In our recent storms, and I'm not going to dwell on this, I will defer to Gary Rowden on our quick storm clearing and removal that took place in recent storms. Garage sale on Halloween night, we had probably had the largest crowd for Halloween night that I've seen so far, okay? Some unusual things that we had 5 close road rage incidents that popped out. When I say this is where a vehicle that's 2 cars in front of me, because I was out patrolling the area myself, one gets out and starts yelling at another to move their car because they're watching the display that's going on at a house, and they've left their car and such. But fortunately, no bad things. But we realized that on Halloween night, particularly now as more houses tend to have more graphic displays and such, it's going to attract traffic and such and can cause potential problems. So it gives us good insight on planning as we go into each year. Garage sale was very seamless, very good, again, a large crowd that turned out, and a good organization of the garage sale. My hat's off. One thing I want to tell you, the robberies are up with postal delivery persons. People are being robbed, the post workers are being robbed, their keys are being stolen. These keys go to these mail deposit box, like you find at Berwick, and at other locations. So the moral of the story is, do not, God forbid, as we go into the holiday season, do not mail Christmas cards and such with cash or gift cards or whatever by putting them in your mailbox and putting the red flag up, because that is just a red flag for the would-be thieves to come along and steal it and take it away. And so at the same time, if you're going to make mail, don't just put it in the deposit box, like the blue deposit box like you find at Berwick and some of these others. Go to a post office, go inside and put it in the deposit inside, okay? Some people right now, they go to work, they trust their contractors to leave them the code to their house and everything, to go in and do repairs, whatever they're going to do when the homeowners are not there. You know, the principal person with the contractor may be legit, but you never know who's working with them. So always be cognizant on who you release your keys and your garage door codes to. Some of our officers have been patrolling. They've seen open garage doors at night. They did a courtesy knock on the door, and the residents were very, very grateful that they told them that their garage door was left open by the kids or someone else. But they're very much looking for it. We still encourage people to remove your valuables from vehicles. We've had virtually no illegal entry into vehicles so far, so that message has been heard by most everybody in the residency. We do have a new pedestrian crosswalk that is active. Thank you, Janet, for the board on the ongoing correspondence with the county. Some of the initial work that I did also with that, in that we now have a safer crosswalk now for our pedestrians down at Wedgefield Crossing and Southbridge Boulevard across from the office. So as I close right now, I'm very proud on my last 6 years. Somebody said, oh, it's 8, isn't it? I said, no, it's 6. John Pajoli, I think if you're here, I think you did 8 with us, and thank you. But anyhow, I was proud to work with Tom Harris and the ongoing board to get us out from under the stormwater drainage and keep us from being imposed with a secondary special services district tax. So that was a major win. Thanks to the board. Thank you for the board for all of that. I've been actively promoting on keeping our self-governance model in place, and that continues to hold alive and true today. We got one half of Southbridge Boulevard resurfaced up to well, one half of it, White Oak Bluff, I guess, is where it stopped. But, you know, we still would like to see the county to resurface the other from a safety standpoint of having striping and such that is very visible. There's a new county app for reporting issues in terms of roadway issues, and, you know, Gary can probably expand on that. I've been very proud of our annual SEMA hurricane town halls that we've had. And when it comes to Track K, I'll have a follow-on update on that. But thank you all, and thank you for the pleasure of being able to serve the community. Thank you.
Thank you, Tom. I just want to give a quick update on legal matters. Liens, as Rick mentioned, were filed against delinquent property owners, and that's our best way of leveraging the property owners who have not paid their dues to ultimately pay those dues if they either sell or they want to refinance or anything like that. With a lien on your property, you can't do any of that until you clear it up. The HOA attorney continues to assist with the proposed covenant changes, and so I'm in direct contact with him on a regular basis. All right, next on our administrative priorities, property management, and we'll invite Gary Rowden up to give a report.
Good evening. We usually cover 3 areas, property, security, and wildlife, for keeping Southbridge beautiful. So that's a real blessing. We also want to take a shout out to the county. They had a lot of stuff to clean up. They worked closely with us and the FEMA contractors, and they got our stuff picked up really quick, and so we're real grateful for that. We do want to mention about some ongoing concerns. Anytime you have a storm like this, there are things that you need to be on the lookout for going forward. For instance, last weekend we had a huge tree fall down on the edge of a wetland area that looked beautiful. It was a gorgeous tree, didn't look like anything was wrong with it, but anytime you have a storm like this, there's trees that get compromised. The root systems are so shallow here in Southbridge that you've really got to be careful. Also, we got what you call widow makers. Anytime you have a storm and the wind blows in the canopy of the trees, you'll have branches that get broke. Well, you can't tell they're broke when the storm first happens. It's not till a week, 10 days later, when they start to turn brown, that you realize, oh, we've got something dangerous up there. We have tried to do our due diligence of going through all the HOA common ground sidewalks, looking for all those and removing them. That being said, we have noticed that some homeowners have those. So especially if you have a sidewalk in front of your house, we ask that you take special care to look at your trees and make sure that the proper maintenance is being done. If you have any widow makers or anything that could fall and hurt somebody, please get it taken care of. Security. We've done pretty good here lately on pine straw scammers. We usually this time of the year, I don't know if they're concentrated somewhere else right now and have finally gotten tired of getting ran out of here. But if you have somebody come to your door and knock and want to sell pine straw, 9 times out of 10 it's a scam. And they have several ways where they inflate the prices terribly. I can tell you stories of $3,000 and $4,000 just to do a front yard. They look for folks with medical problems or the elderly where they can feel like they can take advantage of. So if you see that, even if they're not knocking on your door and you see them knocking on your neighbor's door, call me. Let me come and I'll take care of that. Door-to-door solicitations not allowed. A lot of times right after a storm, anybody have somebody knock on your door and want to inspect your roof after the storm? Yes. These folks chase the storms. I just talked to somebody today who the previous storm had one of these companies come in and do a roof, and they've got problems now, and that company's nowhere to be found because they were from out of town. So we understand you might have trouble with your roof after a storm like this, but we'd like you to consider using somebody local that can follow up with you if you have any problems with the work being done. Camera system, I don't know if Tom mentioned that, but we do have a good camera system in the neighborhood, keeping track of folks coming in and out, which helps with police activity and things of that nature. We are the safest neighborhood in all of Savannah, including the gated communities. We are number 1, and we intend to keep it that way. The last area we like to talk about is wildlife. This year we removed 20 alligators. In fact, I just got a call yesterday. This is probably the latest in the year that I've got a call on an alligator here in Southbridge. But if you see an alligator, please call me and we'll try to relocate it. The other issue that we have that's common is folks not picking up after their dogs. We ask that you please pick up after your dogs. We have pet way stations throughout the neighborhood that are serviced daily. Please take advantage of that. Also, we've had several occasions over the last couple months of dogs getting out of their property and off a leash. If the dog leaves the property, it has to be on a leash. We even had a situation where one dog was killed. So it's very important, and we're trying to enforce that to the best of our ability. Please, your dog, you can say this dog's old, this dog never does anything, it's the best dog in the world. That may be the case. It has to be on a leash when it leaves your property, please. The last thing I want to mention is foxes. Do you guys remember last year all the foxes we had in Southbridge? I want to tip you off that it is about time for that again. It's mating season for foxes. During that mating season, what they want to do is come in to where houses are where the coyotes aren't. And they have their babies, and they stay 4 or 5 weeks, and then they leave again. I got probably a dozen calls last year of people freaking out because they saw foxes in their backyards and close. They're nothing to worry about. We're going to have those, and you'll probably see all the babies in the springtime, and then about 3 or 4 weeks after they're born, they'll be gone. If y'all have any questions, I'll be here afterwards. Thank you.
Thank you, Gary. Next, under administrative priorities, communication, and Regina Graham will give us an update.
Thank you. So communications, website, emails, e-blasts, message boards. Aren't those message boards a really good addition to the neighborhood? Don't you think? Thank you. We really want to communicate with everyone. It's hard to do. We do the best we can. It's an imperative that all the homeowners register on the website. And if you are registered and you're not receiving anything, please check your junk or spam folders, because I promise we're sending information out and updates to the community. So our e-blasts typically arrive in your inbox, and they're labeled Southbridge Bulletin. So if you want to do a search in your email for Southbridge Bulletins, hopefully someone will come up. And if you find it in your spam or junk folder, just please mark it as not junk or move it to your inbox. Might not be a bad idea to check that spam and junk folder anyway on a regular basis for other things that you might be missing. So we do understand that the risks of not feeling communicated with is, it doesn't feel very good. And it can lead to misunderstandings. It can lead to conflicts and damaged relationships and stress. And in our case, a negative impact on our community, so on the neighborhood dynamics. So please register on the website and check those spam folders. One more thing that our communications team is considering in the coming year is is a phone app. It's just one of the ways, since not everybody can get on their computer and check emails, or everybody has a phone. So we're thinking that might be a way that we can get through to those that might not be checking emails or can get those on a regular basis. Everybody has a phone, so hopefully that will be something that will come up that we can do to enhance communications. So I have an amenities update, since we have a few amenities here in the neighborhood. And after having some hurricane aftermath difficulties, they are all operating and flourish nicely now. So we'll start with where we are tonight with Southbridge Golf Club. It was a big process for them to take care of a bunch of trees that had closed the course and blocked cart paths, but they've done really quite well. They've got a great team. So I just want to update real quick. They just held a very successful golf tournament fundraiser with an auction. It's the first time that they had ever tried anything like that, and they actually raised their goal of $30,000 with the event, which was awesome. But I think there were like 116 golfers that participated in the tournament. So there were, like I said, there were a lot of trees that had to be removed, and tree removal is not cheap. Probably many of you know that already. So they needed to, they spent money that they didn't account for, really. I didn't think that they needed to by removing trees, so they had to raise some money to continue some golf course improvements, cart paths and things of that nature. So the volunteers and staff are doing a great job. Most recently, the golf club hosted last Friday a live band, which was kind of new for them, and it was open to the community. So they did send an e-blast out to their database, and it was on our community message board. So if you didn't see it, sorry. But I will, the band members were made up of all local Southbridge residents, either residents or golfers. So it was just a Southbridge thing. It was really, really cool. And I quote, "They were phenomenal." So that was pretty fun and good. Chatham Racquet Club, they are getting ready to host, for the first time, a pickleball tournament that's got like $2,000 prize. So it's really, really kind of new. They've not done anything like this before. And that's going to be on November 23rd and 24th, so it's open to all levels of play. You don't have to be a member of the Racquet Club to be able to participate in this tournament. So call the club, get signed up, and we will be sending out an e-blast to the community as well. Grand Lake Club, doing quite well. Just a reminder that the bistro in the Grand Grand Lake Club, in the Grand Lake Club, is open Thursday through Sunday evenings for dinner. Walk-ins are welcome, although since seating is a little bit limited, you might want to consider making a reservation. They're getting really good reviews. So you can go to 815bistro.com if you want to take a look at what their offerings are. And something new and exciting to look forward to, Grand Lake Club is also going to be hosting a New Year's Eve party. Yay! They'll be sending that e-blast out, I think in a couple of days, but it's December 31st. They'll have hors d'oeuvres, champagne toast, fireworks display, and a great band, really great band. It'll be a lot of fusion of Motown, soul, funk, blues, jazz, pop, rock. Whatever you like, they can do it, so it'll be a lot of fun. I think that's all I have for communications. Thank you.
Thanks. Thank you. We'll now go into the standing committee reports. Architectural review is first. I will ask Deborah Wade to come up to give an update. You may remember seeing an email that Deborah has announced her desire to retire after many decades of dedicated service to our community and looks forward to working with a new ARC administrator during the first quarter of 2025 before making her retirement official. As previously announced via email, we are now accepting applications for this position, and the deadline is November 25th. If anyone is interested, please let me know. Deborah? And would y'all please join me in thanking her? That's just amazing what she has done for our community.
So ARC is always the one out there complaining or, telling you something that you're doing wrong with our courtesy notices. So I'm going to bring up the holiday. Lucy had mentioned that we worked on the guidelines. Holiday, I made up the little things so you can hang it on your tree to remember. The biggest thing is the operation of hours for the lights. If you can turn them off on a timer or turn them off at 11 o'clock, it would be greatly appreciated. And if you have strobing lights, face them to your home, and again, turn them off at 11. So please go over the lights. If you have any questions, go to the website, review the guidelines, or give me a call. So after many years, you've heard that I am going to retire. I've been doing this for 30 years. And in 1994, I went into the real estate office, Bill and I, to buy the second lot to build our second home. And Glenn said, I need your help. And at that time, there were 225 homes, no villas, no condominiums, no townhomes, and only 9 holes of golf. So now Southbridge has grown over to 1,441 residents. I have also worked with many builders, real estate agents, architects, and property managers. I love Gary Rowden, working with Gary, as long as I bring chocolate chip cookies. I appreciate all the help with the board members and have worked with different homeowners. You've heard me say in Southbridge before at meetings that I always call Southbridge our crown jewel of Chatham County. So I'm proud to have helped preserve its beauty, and I'll, of course, continue to help during the transition. So if you'd like to step into my shoes, please let Janet know that you're willing to be the ARC coordinator, or at least get on the committee. Thank you.
right, we have events and services. I'm going to give a brief report for Janie Prisbel, who again is not able to be with us tonight. The Events Committee organized the annual community yard sale that was rescheduled to November 2nd due to the storm, and 68 homeowners participated on a perfect day for a yard sale. The event was advertised on social media with directional signs placed throughout Southbridge pointing the way to buyers. The traffic was continuous, with sellers reporting that they stayed open well beyond noon because of the continuing flow of buyers looking for bargains. The Events Committee would welcome a volunteer to help with next year's yard sale. Please let any board member know if you're interested. An event like that doesn't happen overnight, takes a lot of planning. And the Events and Services Committee really relies on volunteers to help with specific things. So if you can work on one thing a year, that's perfect. They would still love your help. Last event for 2024 is going to be...
Right, so we want to do that, make sure the places are properly marked, they're identified for Southwest residents only, and that we can all be proud of the areas that we have. So that's where we are with
questions and voice concerns. We had over 100 people attend the 4 meetings. Everyone was invited to submit questions and concerns to the secretary email address during the 45-day comment period that was allowed. Individual meetings were held with several homeowners who provided extensive comments. All suggestions are being compiled. I'm up to 13 pages so far, and will be reviewed by the Covenants Committee, our attorney, and the board. Several sections received comments from multiple homeowners, and based on this input, changes to these sections will be made before the proposed changes are finalized. This version will be posted to the website, and a letter will be mailed out with voting instructions to approve or reject the proposed changes in their entirety. The timeline for accomplishing this next, phase of work is uncertain, but it will likely extend into the first part of 2025 at this point. A door-to-door campaign will be utilized in addition to counting ballots returned through the mail and votes cast online to help achieve the required number of votes to approve the changes. Just want to make sure everybody is aware that we are operating under the original covenants that were written in 1988. Other than to add property that is subject to the covenants, they have not been changed. It's overdue. We need to get these covenants updated. In order to approve the changes, we have to have a 2/3 vote of the membership, not 2/3 of those people who vote, but 2/3 of the entire membership vote to approve the changes, which means we've got to have over 900 votes to approve. It's going to be a monumental effort. I, for a long time, resisted working on this because I thought there is no way we're ever going to get 900 votes, 900 people to say yes to the same thing. But I believe that it is something that we need to work on. I've been encouraged by the committee members that we have that this is something that we should be pursuing, that we should continue working on until we get it right and until we get the votes that we need to get these changes approved. I hope that gives you kind of an overview of where we are. The community input to this process has been invaluable, and as I said, there were several sticking points for several people, and those are the topics that we are going to be readdressing before the proposed changes are finalized. Questions about that, I'd be happy to entertain at the end of our section. Now we're going to go on to ad hoc committee reports. Just real quick on the I-16, I-95 improvement project. I've been in touch with the people who are responsible for this project, and as we know, construction is continuing. The bad thing is that while the last report we got said that construction should be substantially complete by the end of the first quarter in 2025, it's now been extended to the second quarter 2025. So it's going to take a little bit longer. Part of the problem is the accident that occurred at the Chatham Parkway Bridge. When that piece of equipment ran into the bridge, when the trailer was pulling it westbound on I-16 from downtown towards Macon, it ran into the bridge. And so if you're on Chatham Parkway at all right now, you notice that one half of the road is down to a single lane, and it's it's a mess. So the Georgia Department of Transportation is having to rethink how they were going to raise that bridge now that it's been damaged. And so their construction and redesign process has been delayed. But we are still hopeful that that work will start in early 2025. And the off and on ramps at that intersection will be reconstructed prior to that. So they're going to be working on it piecemeal somewhat, but it's still working. Other than some additional signage that needs to be installed, everything about the reconstruction of the I-16 and Dean Forest Road interchange has been completed. So I hope all of us have now figured out what a divergent diamond interchange looks like and how to maneuver it when we are traveling on Dean Forest over I-16. So that's an update on that. Tom will now give us an update on Tract K.
So everyone in here, I take it by now, is familiar and knows what Tract K is. Raise your hand if you're not familiar. Okay, just moved in. Okay, we're just real quick for those. If you ever go out here on the Southbridge Boulevard and go all the way down before you get to the Grand Lake Club. In fact, if you see a road on the left that says Woodland Creek Road, immediately to the right, there's a big house that sits up on the hill, and the beginning of that road to a fence goes back approximately about a third of a mile to basically what's now called Tract K, which is a multifamily / single-family home development that will lie right up against I-95. This was something that has been around. It was originally part of of our footprint back in the early days, but the developer at the time, basically that got sold off. We have no control over Tract K. However, the access to that does come off of Southbridge Boulevard. So to do our diligent duty as a board, we have been closely monitoring that, been in close communications originally with the Metropolitan Planning Commission, as well as the Department of Engineering for Chatham County. So basically it is still moving ahead. Where we're at current status is a land development permit has been issued by the engineering department to the developer and builder of Tract K. What this means is that first of all, this allowed for site development work, which is basically clearing out areas, building the road, having a staging area where they could get a large amount of equipment, because the reason they wanted to park it out towards Southbridge Boulevard, we said, no, that's not going to happen. You find a place inward, clear, I don't care how many trees you have to clear out, be it 1,000 or whatever, have a clearing area and you park your equipment there. So they are in the phase right now, a tremendous challenge in terms of having to build into the ground. Before they can build the first house, they have got to build the infrastructure back there. They've got to have the stormwater drainage systems in place, the sewer systems, the fire hydrants, okay, the streets. And then when they build the streets, those streets have to be accepted by Chatham County government, okay? It's not until then that they can then move to the next phase where the Department of Building and Safety Inspection, which is a whole different part of the county, these are the ones that actually issue the permits for building homes. Now, what the homes look like, we don't know at this point in time because they're not to that point yet. We do know that there's been a tremendous amount of rain from these hurricanes. As you know, we got almost, 20 inches of rain from one storm. So all of this, remember, that's a swamp back there. That was Union Camp area. Swamp area, very heavily flooded, up against a dam. Basically, when they built I-95, they built a dam, basically, elevated roadway. So the things that remain right now, and we still continue to closely monitor as a board, is any kind of ill effects from stormwater runoff and such is once they start building back there, and we are hoping to have much more communications with their developers from that. The company that's building that also was co-bought. Depends on who bought who, but anyhow, it's a home builder, D.R. Horton. We don't know what those will look like, but one thing that we are closely monitoring right now is anything that developer does that can violate county ordinances or leave any kind of residue or any kind of negative footprints on our property from their trucks going in and out and such. This is the first development that in the county that's going to require that every single family home and townhome have a sprinkler system. Okay? It's never been done before. Also, the jury's out right now on the water supply system that goes back. Will they be able to maintain enough pressure coming off an initial trunk line that was originally built for Trail Creek? If not, then the developer's going to have to build a water tower. Now, what does this translate into dollars? This means a big cost per unit per whoever buys that. So the more they keep jacking the price up, they're going to have to build something of quality back there or such that they're going to get their monies back. But I'll just close by saying that we are closely monitoring this as we go. As I leave the board right now, I have the highest confidence that our board members and such, and those that do come on the board, who I will orient closely and work with as they come on the board, will continue to do the fine work of being able to monitor what Track K is doing back there and minimize the impact onto the Southbridge footprint. Thank you very much.
As a result of the Strategic Planning Committee, 2 new ad hoc committees were established. The first one will investigate any efforts to annex our community and will develop a report on the advantages and disadvantages of being annexed by an adjacent municipality for consideration by all homeowners. Currently, there are no known annexation efforts for Southbridge, but the board believes it's prudent to anticipate this possibility and to do research in advance of any action. This happened back when the 2010, prior to when that census was going to be taken, there were efforts to be annexed by Garden City, but we have shared property with Garden City, Pooler, and City of Savannah. So any of those 3 could potentially annex us. One thing that we want to look at is that as more and more of Chatham County becomes part of a municipality, that means there's less and less that is unincorporated Chatham County, which is what we are right now. If the amount of property of unincorporated Chatham County decreases dramatically, it means those areas that are left will have to have much higher costs to provide the services to us because now we're hither and yon. So that's just one thing to think about, and we're not promoting this in any way, but we feel like we need to be prepared to think about whether or not it would be in our best interest to consider being annexed. Very likely, we just don't know. So we're going to be looking for volunteers to help us with this and to at least explore what the opportunities are and whether or not it is right for us. If it's not, we're going to advocate that, that we turn any annexation efforts down. But we feel like things have changed since prior to 2010. We're now going into 15 years later. Is there anything different that we wanted to think about? The next one, and I don't remember who was talking about safety and security, but we are going to have this committee on traffic calming. That's the phrase that the county uses. They will work with the county and will work to determine whether or not the community will support asking the county to do a traffic calming study. The county has said that if you want us to come in and evaluate whether or not there are any ways for the county to install traffic calming measures on any of these public roads, primarily Southbridge Boulevard and Wedgefield Crossing, they are going to require, as part of our application to have this study done, a vote of 2/3 of the membership, because they don't want to do the study and then consider putting speed bumps, humps, whatever, I don't know, any other sort of traffic calming measure, and then have an outcry of people, why did you do this? I don't like this. They've got to know that the community welcomes this and would be receptive to it before they're going to go to the trouble of doing the study. If we can't get enough buy-in from the community, then we will not go any further with it. But that's one of the best ways we as a community can help ourselves deal with the issue of speeding. And it's one that is being formed in response to a significant number of comments and concerns about speeding throughout our neighborhood. So we're doing this in response to that. We will again be looking for volunteers for both of these committees, and please speak to any board member if you are willing to help. Just in closing, I want to mention before we open up for questions, I want to remind everyone that at this time, the Southbridge website is our official source of information for the HOA. We want everyone to be registered on the HOA website and to receive messages of interest to the entire community. People complain about communication, and we cannot communicate with people who do not give us their information. I cannot force you to register, but please don't, complain if I don't talk to you because you haven't told me how I can do it. So just that simple. It's an ongoing issue and one we want to continue to address. We did have some questions submitted in advance of the meeting, so I'm going to go over those fairly quickly, and then we'll open it up to questions from the floor. We had 3 homeowners who asked questions about the proposed covenant changes. As discussed earlier, more information will be mailed out to everybody, including how to vote, once the final version is available for review. A homeowner asked when the construction of the roundabout near the Dean Forest Road entrance might begin. That's something that we talked about earlier this year. I emailed the county engineer for an update and learned that this project, because that still is the county's best choice of a way of redesigning the Wedgefield Crossing, Southbridge Boulevard intersection near the real estate office. That's their best design, and they are going to be putting it into their funding request for the next fiscal year. So they should learn sometime around June of 2025 if that funding has been approved. If so, then they can move forward with the project. If it is not approved, then they would have to wait till the next SPLOST referendum. If you remember, that's the special purpose local optional sales tax. So that's another way of finding funds for municipal projects. So that's kind of an update on that. There are no plans at this point to do it, but they are going to put a request in the budget for next year to do it. Another homeowner asked about plans to control the Canada geese population. I want to remind everyone that the revised strategic plan has a specific goal to develop a wildlife management plan for the HOA. And I also want to encourage individual homeowners to contact the USDA to learn about the options that that agency can provide to mitigate wildlife harming their personal property. This is a very sensitive issue for some people, and we live in an area where the animals were all here first. We have moved into their territory, but we have to find ways to live peacefully with the alligators and the foxes and the Canada geese. And there are just, we've got to figure out, though, when we get enough complaints about why do you let this many geese stay in the neighborhood and poop all over the place? It's a concern. So we need to address the concerns that are being raised to us. Those were the ones that were submitted in advance. Anyone have questions now from the floor?
Janet, just a statement for the new homeowners. Tom, I don't think you mentioned it. Track K is not part of Southbridge?
Never has been, right.
Okay, and so ARC is not involved?
Right. It has always been part of the Berwick Plantation Property Owners Association and remains part of that Property Owners Association. It has never been part of Southbridge. Yes?
And so with that comment, do we have any idea if they plan to incorporate that section or stay unincorporated like the rest of our stuff?
I mean, it incorporated into, unincorporated Chatham County, or is that what you're asking?
Be incorporated in Chatham County.
Well, I mean, it's...
Garden City, or Annex, or whatever.
Yeah, I'm not aware of anything right now that would lead us to believe that Track K will become part of a municipality. Tom, do you have other information?
Ask that question to the engineering department. Thank you for your question, very timely. There is no plans. Pooler at one time had looked at, well, what if we could ever service that area, but they realized that coming off of Quaco Road, there was no right-of-ways and such that they could ever do that. So it is my understanding, and talking with the engineering department, that that will remain unincorporated Chatham County and not be a part of Savannah or Pooler or Garden City.
Thank you.
Okay. everyone hear that? And for our viewers at home, everything we know at this point is that Tract K will remain part of unincorporated Chatham County. Other questions, Beverly?
Are the bios going out with the ballots?
Yes, she asked if the bio information for each of the candidates, yes, that hard copy will be included with the ballot. It is also available on the online voting platform. Yes, ma'am?
When we go to vote for the proposed changes in the covenants, my understanding is that if you vote yes, you're voting for everything that's going to be changed. You can't just vote for a piece of it.
That's correct. You're voting for the changes in their entirety. So that was the question, is can you vote for just part of the changes? And the answer is no. Yes, ma'am.
With regard to the covenants, I understood that it was just going to be bits and pieces of tweaking here and there. But I mean, you've got some major changes on some of those covenants that have not been advertised. Number one, that you cannot rent your house for 2 years after you buy it. I have 2 homes already in Southbridge. I'm looking for a third. But now I won't be able to unless I go and move in it for 2 years. That's
Well, Amelia,
amazing that
Right.
came out of the covenants, because there was nothing in there at all before that.
there are currently in our covenants restrictions on nightly rentals and things like that. So, but the recommendation was made to expand that to encourage and to continue Southbridge being a predominantly owner-occupied community. We feel like that strengthens our community. We put that language in there primarily because we are concerned about investor buyers, corporate investors coming in and buying up properties. I emailed you to let you know that there are several homeowners who have expressed concern about that specific change, and that is certainly one that we're going to be looking at. I wanted to make sure you understood where the basis for that change was, which again is to try to protect ourselves from becoming a largely rental community. That was the main reason for it. We can certainly look at options that would give preferential treatment to people who are members of the HOA who own second homes that they rent. That is a possibility and something we would certainly consider. It had not, we simply didn't think about it, which is why getting input from people on things that we need to tweak or revisit is so important. So I hope you understand that that is something that is definitely being looked at. I understand your concern, and I hope the explanation of what caused us to put it in there and the fact that we're going to look at that again gives you some assurance that we are looking at this. You're welcome. Other questions from the floor? If there are no other questions, I want to thank you again for coming. I did have the business office bring a couple of copies of the Property Owner's Handbook. This is available on our website, but we've had, especially during that those informational meetings, we had several people say, well, I never saw that. And so we're sorry if that's the case. When this document was first printed, a copy was mailed to every homeowner who lived here at the time. And since then, supposedly, a copy is mailed to every new homeowner. So we're trying to cover all our bases, but if for some reason you did not receive a copy, again, it's available online, or I have a few more copies up here available for people to take. Please remember in this season of Thanksgiving that we have so many things to be thankful and grateful for. I'm grateful for a wonderful community that we've lived in for 30 years. Thank you very much.